Perhaps ship's captains and heads of large industrial companies get the same vibes. It's the challenge of the difficulty of the task that gives you the satisfaction. Whenever I'm asked what the most exciting moment of my life has been so far, the one time outside the field of personal relationships when I can most clearly remember experiencing unadulterated joy was the moment immediately following my HGV Class 1 driving test.
Mr. Atkinson, I'm pleased to say you've passed your test.
The experience of making 2,000 people laugh in a theatre is but a light breeze compared to the tornado of excitement that I felt at that moment in 1981.
So quite clearly you weren't content to be in control of the average old vehicle that everybody else drives. You wanted something much more grand and powerful.
No, that's right, yes, absolutely. But I think some of it is a sort of a yearning that I have, I suppose, in all areas of my life, which has always been to be different. You know, it's always trying to be the odd, wanting, if you like, in a way, to be the odd man out, to be the one who's doing something that everyone else is not doing. I mean, I know that that's what I liked at school, even though I was hopeless at games, which was obviously the thing that most boys admired other boys for. The one thing I could do, it seemed at the time, was act in the school play, and at least I could do that.
So perhaps we start to get at what Rowan Atkinson's cars are really all about. They're part of that whole alternative, choosing an alternative way of actually achieving something which is very sort of personal and very real and very fulfilling.
Well, yes, but at the same time, I feel within myself that I'm basically, you know, a pretty shy and retiring sort of bloke, and I'm constantly surprised at the way that only in the world, only in relation to cars, that I can do these relatively arrogant things, make these relatively arrogant, brash gestures of buying really rather sharp-looking motor cars that, in theory, you know, there's a big bit of me which says, this is madness, you know, this is not you. I mean, there was this Mercedes 600 that I came across only about 3 or 4 years ago that was at the end of a particularly frantic period of buying and selling cars, and it was this huge, great big long thing. But what was wonderful about it is that, you know, Mercedes engineers had installed this extraordinary air hydraulic system that did absolutely everything. I mean, not only did the seats move backwards and forwards and up and down by air, you got this little sound and things moved. Back it went. You pressed a button and the boot opened. And you pressed the button and the boot closed. It's all. Now, I was fascinated by that, I suppose, as an engineer. But at the same time, I got in it and I bought it. I bought the blasted thing. And I drove 50 yards and I felt such a prat. Such a prat.
What had I done? Surely the owner and driver of that road-going liner couldn't be me. It was the turning point. I realized my passion was out of control.
It probably means that you haven't quite yet found, or hadn't quite found, the car which actually is sort of tuned to the kind of image that you want to project, not only to other people as a piece of self-expression, but actually to yourself. And I think whenever we look at a car, we inescapably have a kind of thumbnail sketch of the kind of person who would ordinarily drive that kind of car. And if we feel that kind of person, then we're attracted towards the car. If we can't see ourselves as a member of that kind of group of persons, then we will reject the car. So perhaps your history of buying and selling is a way of sort of working towards an image that you want other people to have of you, but more importantly, that you want to have of yourself. And when you find the car that you're comfortable in, to some extent, you've found who you are.
So how do you find the car that fits? Your first port of call might be the motor show. Every car on the market under one roof, served up with Brussels sprouts and all the trimmings.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clio.
And so yet another tin box is unveiled to the world's press. You'd think that as virtually all of us own a remarkably similar-looking tin box, that we would have long ago stopped regarding such a thing as a significant event. Yet it is, because they've spent £400 million making it look subtly different. And here, every manufacturer is trying to convince you that their subtle differences are more subtle than anyone else's. I first came here to the motor show 20 years ago. My parents brought me down from Northumberland as a half-term treat. And like most people, I did not come to see a Fiat or a Ford. I came to see a Ferrari, because I'd never, ever seen one. These cars have an extremely strong image that is carefully cultivated and jealously guarded.
Can I go on the stand?
But do cars at the lower end of the market have an image? Or are they simply bought and sold like washing machines?
It's fair to say image is vital to all buyers of motor cars. Gone are the days when people bought motor cars to get from A to B. They all do that safely and reliably. The reason people buy cars of all sizes, classes and prices nowadays is it says something about them. It looks good on their drive, and that's the whole part of buying a motor car. But it's not just the looks, of course. It's the most important part about it is the badge. And if the badge is a good badge, and you mentioned Rover, which I obviously would believe is a good badge, and there are one or two others around in the marketplace today, people are prepared to pay extra money to have that badge.
Right.
They put the car keys down on the bar in the pub, and it's got the logo of the manufacturer, and they say, I've got a whatever. And that makes them feel good, and they feel extremely proud about it.
Worshippers come from throughout the land to pay homage at this cathedral to conspicuous consumption, to ogle and to gape, and to give thanks for their continuing ability to conspicuously consume. There are even angels standing by, a heavenly host of them, ready to flutter their wings and to flatter. The reality of car buying for most of us is far removed from the glitz of a motor show. 60% of us buy our cars second-hand. John and Alan run a second-hand car dealership in South London, and they are in no doubt what inspires them to do so.
Well, I mean, it's basically, if you know what you're doing, it's a license to print money.
You think so, right?
We don't know too much about cars, we're not that mechanically minded.
Right.
But we do know if there's a profit in the car.
Right.
Once you get to that stage, it's plain sailing.
A lot of people think that at least, 30% of the car buying public, like housewives or people who have no professed interest in cars don't care what they drive. Would you
Oh,
say that everybody cares to a certain extent?
A lady came into us on Saturday. She was a student. She was 21. She wanted to spend around about £2,000. And I had a G-Reg Skoda, 3 months old. She said, I don't care what I drive. She said, as long as it gets me from A to B. I said, I can sell you a G-Reg Skoda for £2,000. Oh no, well I don't want a Skoda. I don't really want a Skoda. Anything else you got particularly?
Can you tell? Can you get an angle on someone the moment they